What's up, guys? I know a lot of you guys have been coming to this channel just for my Tekken 8 basic punishment guides, and I really appreciate that. But I have been seeing a lot of comments, or just a few comments, where they're saying, what are frames? How do frames work? And so here is a small basic guide on how frames work and how to use them to watch my videos. Let's do it. Now, to start off this video, I'm just gonna have to say that this is not going to be an in-depth guide. This is just going to be a guide to basically give you guys a beginning understanding on how frames work, so that you guys will be able to watch my videos. I'm not gonna go in depth on what frames are in a technical standpoint, like, you know, what 60 frames per second means, all these things. How many frames are in a second, you know, all those things. I'm not gonna be able to do that in this video. There's a bunch of videos already out there for you to look. This is basically a video so that you guys can follow along my basic punishment guides. Now, to start, you gotta make sure we have the correct settings. I think by default you have the player info already turned on, but we need both player info and the opponent frame info to show the details. Technically, you can be able to use only the player frame info, because you can actually see both sides already when we're talking about block punishment. But just to make it simple for you guys to quickly understand, I'm going to turn them both on. Everything else you can probably hide. Now that we have the right settings, we can kind of look at that table on the bottom. And so there's a few things there, probably going to confuse you guys, but there's only really two things that you really need to worry about, which is the attack startup frames and the frame advantage. So first, the attack startup frames. In my videos, you could probably hear me say this: for 10 frames, 12 frames, 13 frames, 14 frames, and at 17 frames. What does that all mean? What does it mean to be 10 frames? What does it mean to be 12 frames? What do they all mean? A frame, basically, in the most general terms, is basically a unit of time that is being measured in a video game. And so what does that mean? Basically, for attack startup frames, that shows you how fast a move will come out in terms of frames. And so when I do my one jab, you can see that it's 10 frames. And you can see that in my basic punishment guides, they usually start at 10 frames because in general, moves like everyone's fastest move is 10 frame. Of course, there are other moves that are less than 10 frames, like for example Yoshimitsu's flash, 6 frames, as you can see down below. But as you can see, it's not really used for block punishment because it has really low range, so you're most likely not going to punish anyone with this. And in general, a lot of the moves that are less than 10 frames are generally not used for block punishment. And so that's why I generally start with 10 frames, and most guides will always start with 10 frames because that's everyone's fastest move. And just as a quick demonstration, I'm gonna have both Yoshi and Reina do their one jabs, and you can see they're both 10 frames. And if I hit them when they're close together, you can see that they're both gonna be trading. And that's because since these moves are basically the same amount of frames, they're going to trade, and so we're gonna hit each other. Now, if I do their two jab, you can see they have different properties. Reina now has 12 frames for her two jabs, while Yoshimitsu has 11 startup for his two chops. And so when I try to do their two jabs when they're close to each other, you can see that Yoshi will actually beat Reina every single time because his jab, or his two jab, is faster than Reina's. And so in general, the lower the number, the faster the move is. And the higher the number, the slower the move is. So low means good, high means bad. Very simple. Now, something to note is that when you're looking at the attack startup frames, in the brackets, there's actually two numbers there. And those two numbers just basically means the leftmost number is the fastest time that move will come out, and then the second number will be the slowest time that move will be able to connect with the opponent. And in general, like I said, they're usually the same amount of frames, unless they have some kind of forward movement Like for example, Reina's down forward 2. And I can kind of show this. So when she's right up to his face, it's going to be 15 frames almost every single time. Actually, every single time it'll be 15 frames. But if I put a little distance, you can see that it's 16 frames. And that's because she does have to travel a little bit to hit him. And at the 16 frames is very specific. It's probably like the max distance that her down forward 2. Some moves have a little bit more travel time. For example, Reina's crouch dash 3 has a little bit more variability in it. It has 15 to 17. That's because there's a little bit more travel time there. But in general, like I said, most moves have about the same or maybe a 1 frame distance depending on the move. Now for frame advantage. Now we're not going to talk about what happens when you get hit because that's not the point of my guides. We're mostly going to talk about what happens when your opponent blocks something. And as you can see, there's a little number there next to frame advantage to show you how much recovery you will have after your opponent blocks. And so as you can see, when I do my one jab, it's +1, meaning that I will recover faster or 1 frame faster than Yoshi. And in general, a plus frame means it's a good thing. That means it's still your turn. While a minus frame, which is what you can see in Yoshi's, you can see that they're actually inverted there. I am +1 and he is -1. So a -1 just basically means he will recover 1 frame slower than me. And so to showcase this, I want to have Yoshi jab at me after he first blocks, and as you can see, I can block it because I have enough time to block. And basically that's what it means for a move to be safe when your opponent blocks it. It means that you are able to recover fast enough so that you can be able to block. Now for other moves, like for example, Reina's down forward 2, it's -12 on block, which means that Yoshimitsu can actually punish me with his 10 frame jab. And this could go on up to one of his 12 frame moves, like for example his standing 4 can punish me because as you can see, it is 12 frames. And so if I have Yoshi do his own down forward 2, which is 15 frames, I can now be able to block it. So in general, you can punish moves that are equal to or lower than the amount of negative frames that the move has. And so that's pretty much the essence of what block punishment means. You have your opponent or yourself block a move, and you can kind of see what moves can punish it depending on the amount of frame advantage you have. And that's why the only 2 things that you really need to know about that table down there is the attack starter frames to show how fast a move is, and the frame advantage to show you if it's punishable, if your move that you're doing on block is punishable. And so that's basically the basics of frame advantage. Now you should be able to, look at a lot of the moves that is giving you trouble, seeing if they're punishable, being -10 and above, and using the corresponding punishments that you see from my block punishment guide. So now you guys should be able to now block a move. There's a lot of moves in the game, a lot of strings, and a lot of them are very punishable. And as you can see, if you block something that is punishable, you just get free damage, right? You can be able to get free damage, sometimes you get Oki, sometimes you get heat, a lot of things depending on the punishments. So it's very important for you to remember how to punish certain moves because they will be punishable. Or you find out that a move is not punishable and you have to punish it in other ways, such as sidestep, movement, whatever, duck, and then you cry because Tekken is hard. And this is not only for Tekken, you can use this for Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, honestly any fighting game where you block, same rules will apply. And if you guys have any other questions, please leave more comments down below. I'd be happy to help and explain a little bit further, because I know that this one is pretty basic. And that should be it. Hopefully you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye bye.